Hello and welcome to today's session on business development for researchers. Your presenter today is Sebastian Adolfi. Sebastian Adolfi teaches entrepreneurship and innovation management at Humboldt University, Berlin. As educational program manager at the Startup Incubator, he enables students and researchers to develop their business ideas and guides their journey in starting companies. An engineer by trade, he builds his expertise as lecturer, scientist, and consultant in engineering design methodology and product development at various Berlin research institutions. His current research focus is on personalities, competencies, and roles in startup teams. Finally, just to introduce myself, my name is Kelechi Amako, and I work with Researcher Academy here in LCB Amsterdam. Today's session will last approximately 60 minutes. After Sebastian's presentation, we will then consider some questions that are frequently asked about this topic. You can also visit Researcher Academy Mendeley group to pose more questions on the topic, and the link to the Mendeley group can be found under resources on the bottom right of your page. We recommend you also join the group. One more housekeeping announcement before we move on to the webinar. The slides of this presentation and many other documents relevant to this webinar can be found under downloads, also on the right-hand side of your Researcher Academy screen. Thank you so much for joining us today. Over to you, Sebastian.
Thanks a lot for the introduction. This gives me the opportunity to directly jump into the topic.
Yes.
So I will skip. You can just take a look on the information about me. I'll skip this as we already heard this and come to the outline. What I'm going to talk about today? I'm going to answer several questions regarding the topic. I guess the first one is, why is business development important for researchers? And the second is, what is a business model? And the third one is, how do I develop a business model? After this, I will give you a short outlook on what you can do to learn more about this issue, and then we will have the opportunity to have our Q&A. So the first question, why is business development important for researchers? As you decided to listen to this, all of you will have your own explicit or implicit hypothesis on why business development is important for you as a researcher. But let me give you my take on the question. First of all, I would say business development is important for everyone. It should be taught in high schools. You don't need to start a company in order to benefit from understanding business models and business development. I think every employee in any company or institution is a better employee when he or she understands the business model of his or her employer. As well, even outside the workplace, understanding business models is elementary to being an informed citizen, I think. Especially as a consumer, it is important to understand the business model of the company whose products and services you purchase and use. Is the business model of the car manufacturer whose car I drive to sell high-quality cars, or to sell services and spare parts of low-quality cars? I want to know this, and I guess you will like to know this too. So even as a researcher, you are still part of the general population, and hence business development is generally important for you. In regard to your profession, the level of relevance depends on the domain of your research and the institutional circumstances you're working in. Of course, there are differences between theoretical physics and biotechnology, for example. But in general, I would give 3 possible reasons which might fit more or less to your situation. First, your research needs funding. I guess this is fitting for all of you. Universities become more and more like companies, and research becomes more and more like business, if you like it or not. And you will have to sell your research to someone, no matter if you work in basic research or applied sciences. And if you are able to sell your research, you will also benefit within your scientific community on conferences and so on. So this is just a basic reality we have to face. Secondly, you can use the methods and tools of business development to develop your research projects. The basic principles of business development you will learn about today can, in my opinion, directly be transferred to the development of your next research project. And last but not least, starting your own company is a great career path if you want to benefit directly from your expertise acquired in research. You will be able to work on what really interests you and bring your research to application. So you can choose which of these possibilities is more or less fitting to you, but I guess there's something in it for all of you. So let's move on to the next question. What is a business model? This is the basic for business development, understanding what a business model is. Of course, there are many definitions and perspectives, like in any field. I guess you know this, but I've picked one which I found especially useful to understand the basic principles. Alex Osterwalder defines business model as follows. A business model describes the rationale of how a company or an organization creates, delivers, and captures value. So you have three elements in this definition. You have to create, deliver, and capture value. If you take a look at the pyramid in the image, you'll find the customer in the center. So who is your target customer? This is the center of your business model. Then, regarding creation of value, you have the value chain. How is the value proposition created? This is the first dimension. You have to understand how you're going to produce the value for your customer. The second, delivery. This is part of the value proposition. What do you offer to the customer? So the question would be, what does your customer need, and what can you offer to him to meet these needs? And last but not least, capture. You have to capture the value. This is pictured in the image as a revenue model. You have to find a way to capture the monetary benefits of your value that you deliver to the customer. So why is your business model profitable? How will you be able to earn from doing your business? These are the three elements with the additional customer in the center, which basically make up any kind of business model. The next question, if you have understood this, would be to ask, how do I develop a business model? I'm going to show you kind of a process of the basic elements and relations, how they fit together and how they build on each other. So in the center of your business development would be a problem that some customer has, that he's waiting for a solution. And the customer normally is in part of a market which you will be operating in if you want to solve this problem. Problem for many people seems to be kind of too harsh a statement, so you can also take a look on needs. there's a broad variety between problem and need. So some kind of need is required on the side of the customer. Of course, it's more tempting for him to use your solution if he really has a problem, but if there's an essential need, this will also help you to find customers. The next element which adds to your business model would be your company, understanding your company, building your company, and finding a solution for the problem or the need of the customer. The solution, finding solutions is not really the difficult part. You can always find solutions for various kinds of problems, and there are always various kinds of different solutions to any kind of problem. The hard part is to find the solution which really is needed by your customer. So your goods and services which incorporate your solution have to provide value to the customer, and the value must be connected to the revenue you are going to get, because the value of the services and goods you're delivering will directly influence how much your customer is willing to pay for your solution. And if this doesn't match, so if your products are too expensive, for example, it doesn't help if they provide value. You will not be able to sell those products. If you take a look on the slide now, this is basically the core element of your business. You have to understand, you have to have a company, you have to have a solution for an existing problem in the market, and you have to be able to deliver value in a way that somebody is going to pay for it. This is the very core element. If you take a look further, of course, you will have to somehow bring your goods and services to the customer. First, you have to find your customer, then you have to get the attention of the customer, and then you will have to deliver in some kind of way your goods and services. This is what we call channels. This is, in today's world, even more important because there are many, many companies with many solutions, and there's a lot of information and a lot of product in the world. So getting the attention of the customer is, for many startups, the hardest part in the early phase when they start entering a market. What you also see on the slides now is what we call customer segments. So the market is not one big unified mass. There are different kinds of customers, and you can classify these customers into segments which will help you to provide your value more specifically. What you see in your business model is in many situations that you have different variants of products or products with different variants in their design, which appeal to different customer segments. So you can have different customer segments regarding the price of a product or the performance of the product and so on. And this is important to understand which customer segments you are going to address in your business development. Besides the channels, there are also other relations you will have to your customer, or you should have to your customer. The channels mainly describes the sales process and the relations you have within this sales process, but outside you will have to build and maintain customer relationships in order to have a good relationships to your customers, and this is also part of your business model. Now on this slide we have everything which is related to the direct relationship between your company and the market, but we also have different issues within your company. We have to take a closer look on the company. In order to provide your solution, you need two things mainly. The first thing is you need resources. These are, of course, material resources, but more important are the personal resources, your team. This will be, especially at the startup, but also later on, the most crucial resource for you to use. You have to build a good team in order to build your company. Between the team, the resources, and the solution are processes or activities. So when you develop a business, you also have to understand which are your most important activities, your most important processes, and you have to design these processes in order to make your company successful. Now, if you have understood your company, you will see that in most cases you will need partners outside of your company, which will also provide resources to you in order to create the solution. Partnering up with different companies and different people is highly advised to any kind of startup, because if you just try to do all of this by yourself, you're just making your life very much harder than it's really necessary. And on the other side, in the marketplace, you also see other companies, but they are not your partners, they're your competitors. And your competitors are going to have solutions which are going to compete with your solution. So for every problem or for every need, there are different solutions, and you not only have to bring your solution to the customer via your channels, you also have to provide better or more attractive solutions than your customers. So if you develop a business, it is very important to understand the competition on the market, to understand their solutions in order to be successful. One additional point which is quite helpful in this situation or in this relation is you can also use your competition and their solutions in order to build your business model or your business in general, because if you take a look on the competition in the market, you can adapt their business model and maybe not have to develop one just by your own, but you can change an existing business model, and based on this, you can develop your own business. So what you now see here is the complete picture of the basic elements and relations within your business model. You have to understand these relationships, and if you want to build a business, you can use these different elements and relations to part by part build your business model. The tool most people or many people use in order to develop their business model is the business model canvas by Alex Osterwalder. He created this canvas. It's basically just the model I've just shown and explained to you put down on one sheet of paper. So there are 9 different fields within the business model canvas, and these fields exactly contain the different elements of the business model I've just explained to you. So you can use this business model canvas to create your business model. You can use it to show it to other people, and this is a great tool in order to work on your business model. What you generally do is you don't create this business model canvas just one time, but you use it as a tool in a dynamic process when you work on your business model. And this way you can also see how your business model is developing And you can also still use this if your startup is already existing or if your business is already existing. You can use this as a tool to maintain a good understanding of the business model and maybe identify if there are weak points in your business and you have to change. The business model canvas and its use in business development is very good described in the book by Alexander Osterwalder, Business Model Generation. I would highly recommend this. On the book you find also some web resources. So Alex has created an online company as well, Strategizer, and there you will find various tools, not just the business model canvas, but also different other methods and tools which are very useful in order to develop a business and create business models. A second resource I would recommend to you is the book The Business Model Navigator by Gassman and his co-authors, and here you'll find they have done research on general findings within different business models, and they have created a list of 55 models that will help you to develop your own business. So it's kind of a generic collection of typical business models which you can apply and adapt in order to develop your own business. If you want to learn more about business development, I can also recommend to you another webinar which is coming up tomorrow. This is a webinar on lean startup principles. So this is a specific strategy which can be used to develop a business. And in this webinar, we will go more into detail on this specific strategy which you can use in your case. You can register for this webinar right away just on the website you're already on. And this is very much recommended in order to get more deeply into the strategies for starting companies. And with this, I'm going to close. I thank you for your attention, and I'm very interested in your questions regarding the issue.
Okay. Thank you, Sebastian. Before we go, we have few frequently asked questions that we would want to pose to you to provide some answers. I will start with the first one. It says, which do you advise I focus on while starting out? A business model for the marketable applications of my findings, or a business plan?
Well, this is a good question, but one which I think I can give a quite good answer to. Of course, you should start with the development of a business model for your marketable application. For your findings, as I explained, the problem or the need of the customer is always in the center of your business model. So you will have to find the application first for your findings. The business plan can come much later on, only if you have found a good business model. If you have found and tested and validated a good business model, then you can go on and write a business plan if this is needed.
Okay, thank you. So this leads me to the second question on business plan. So do I really need to write a business plan?
Well, this is kind of a successor question, and it's not quite an easy one. On the one side, there are the startup guys, which say you don't need a business plan at all. So if you, for example, ask Alexander Osterwalder or the people working with the lean startup approach, they will tell you writing a business plan is a total waste of time. But still, the reality is, for many situations, you will still need a business plan. For example, if you're going to investors, or if you're going to financial institutions, which should finance your project and your startup, they still will generally ask for a business plan. The disadvantage of a business plan is that it's not quite suited for the situation of creating a business or starting a company, because these are situations which are highly uncertain in their outcome. And what you do in a business plan is that you try to plan ahead a situation in which you cannot really plan ahead. So this is an ambitious topic, but it depends on the situation you're in. I would say in the early phases, when you're still developing your business, you should not focus on writing a business plan, but in many cases you will still have to do it on some later time.
Okay, thank you for the response. The last but not the least question we'll be considering is one that is dear to researchers' hearts. It reads, while trying out my marketable ideas, how do I manage my other research and academic engagements?
Well, I guess this is an issue for many researchers thinking about developing a business. And there's, of course, not a very simple answer, because it highly depends on the situation you're in. I would say that it's in most cases possible to combine both tasks. Of course, you will have to cut some of your research time in order to work on your business development. But in many situations, this development of marketable ideas can also be incorporated in your research institution. So you will not have to step outside of the research institution. You can also do this within your research area. And depending on what your plan is, if you want to leave research and start a company for yourself, then of course one option would also be to really start working on your idea more with more time by leaving your research behind. If you want to develop marketable ideas for your research institution, because many research institutions also are interested in developing ideas for marketing the research outcomes, then you can also do this, of course, as part of your job.
Okay. Unfortunately, we are out of time and we must stop the webinar now. But before we go, I would like to extend a vote of thanks to our fantastic speaker, Sebastian. I am sure we can agree that this has been a useful session and there has been much to take home, especially the tips to developing business for researchers. To take your learning further, you might wish to review some of the various articles and other resources which are available on the webinar page, which you are on now. We have actually collected materials and are highly relevant to this topic at hand. I would like to take the opportunity to thank you for giving us your attention. Apologies to those whose questions haven't been answered during this webinar. If that is the case, fear not. You can actually raise any outstanding questions in the Researcher Academy Mendeley group. The link for the group is under the resources on the bottom right of the webinar page. Finally, if you didn't manage to catch all the webinar or you want to review it, we are pleased to confirm that you are able to view the webinar on demand from the Researcher Academy site. You can also claim your certificate for attendance and learn about our other tools, events, and courses. Thanks to you all once again, and best wishes in your future endeavors.